Chris, what is our third main topic today?
This one comes from Joshua Byrd. There have been rumors for years that Chris Pratt was going to be the next Indiana Jones. Pratt's not my favorite actor, but I always thought he'd probably be a good fit. But I guess that's all pointless now because Pratt is saying he won't do it because Ford doesn't want anyone else playing it. Do you think that's a good reason to turn down a role if it was offered to him?
All right, thanks a lot for saying that in. And you're not kidding. This has been a rumor that's been around for years and has been very, very persistent. And I'm not going to lie, I've heard some insider chatter about it as well. That ultimately, when Harrison Ford was ready to hang up the fedora, that Chris Pratt was going to be the next Indiana Jones. And I agree with you. When I first heard it, I thought, that's actually not a bad selection. I mean, again, to me, X actor, X role, there's a lot of great actors who could step in and be Indiana Jones next. Chris Pratt could be one of them. I mean, that could have been fun. That could have been worked very well. However, Pratt, as now, I think it was on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, he came out and said, no, it ain't ever going to happen. I won't do it. And his explanation is actually kind of interesting. This comes to us from the folks over at IndieWire who write the following. I don't even know who Steven Spielberg is. Who? Steven who? Pratt joked on the podcast before saying, no. Aren't they doing Indiana Jones with Harrison Ford? All I know is that I once saw a quote from Harrison Ford, and I don't even know if it was really him. It was, by the way. But it was enough to scare me. That was like, when I die, Indiana Jones dies. And I'm like, am I going to get haunted by the ghost of Harrison Ford one day when he dies if I play? Ford, who recently turned 80, previously said on the Today Show in 2019 that the iconic adventurer character begins and ends solely with his performance. Don't you get it? I'm Indiana Jones, Ford said at the time. When I'm gone, he's gone. It's easy. And get the fuck out of my house. So that's, of course, coming to us from IndieWire. All right. Number one, it should be noted that we don't have any factual information that claims that studios actually approached Chris Pratt to actually say, we want you as Indiana Jones. The rumors have persisted for years, and I have heard some insider chatter, but again, nothing official. So let's keep that in mind. So if you are Chris Pratt, though, is it a good reason to, say, turn down a role like Indiana Jones? Because Harrison Ford said, I'm Indiana Jones, and when I die, Jones is gone, and Jones is done. I'll say this. I respect that decision. Although I do not believe the studio should be beholden to it. Let me explain what I mean. If I'm Chris Pratt, if I'm Chris Pratt's buddy, and he says to me, I'm going to turn down Indiana Jones. Let's say he was offered it. I'm going to turn down because, listen, Harrison Ford, I grew up watching Harrison Ford at it, and Harrison Ford said when he dies, Jones dies. And I got to respect that, so I wouldn't play him. I respect that. I think that's actually great. Do I think that means the studio should never again make an Indiana Jones movie? No. I don't believe that at all. I'm not saying they should make more Indiana Jones movies, but I'm saying if Disney and Lucasfilm decide they want to make more Indiana Jones movies after Harrison Ford isn't playing it anymore, Harrison, you weren't even the guy who was supposed to play him in the first place. It was supposed to be Tom Selleck. And of course, you are Indiana Jones now, make no mistake about it. But the IP transcends the actor playing it. James Bond has had many people playing the character. Hell, Dumbledore has had many people playing him. I mean, if, and only if, sometime 5-10 years from now, Lucasfilm, Disney decides, hey, we've got a great Indiana Jones adventure idea, or somebody came to us with a great script for it, and I don't think you go, but Harrison's not here anymore, so we can't make it anymore. Yes, you can. And I totally respect actors like Chris Pratt, or maybe others who might go, hey man, we idolize Harrison Ford. So Harrison Ford didn't want anybody else to do it, so we're not going to do it. Totally respect that. I think that's great. But in no way, shape, or form do I think Disney or Lucasfilm should be beholden to that if they so choose. Rob, you hear about this. What do you make of it?
Well, look, I agree with you. I think any actor, we've proven time and time again that actors can be replaced in signature roles. But here's what I would say more than anything else. I would rather see new IPs created. It seems strange to me that we keep going back and we recycle these characters that were part of an era. Like James Bond was created by Ian Fleming during the Cold War in the 50s. And they keep, I wonder, part of the reason we aren't going to get a James Bond movie in the next couple of years is I think they really are trying to figure out, well, how do we how do we do a James Bond movie? We've got the Mission Impossible franchise that has been smoking us for the last couple of years. Like, we can't. So how do you make these franchises stay relevant? Mm-hmm. And to me, like, what's Hollywood going to do in 30 or 40 years? Are they going to remake these franchises again? Where I think creating new franchises is where they should be looking. Why not retire? I like what Harrison Ford says. Indiana Jones is a character that existed from 1981 to what's going to be 2023. That's a substantial chunk of the history of motion pictures. You know, that one guy plays that character. Let him die. I understand. Chris Pratt, he's a religious man. He might really believe that Harrison Ford's going to come back and haunt his ass for the rest of his life. Now, I think Chris Pratt, if they did, he'd be good. He kind of looks like Harrison Ford. I think he's got that charm and he could make that kind of a film. But, you know, again, the Indiana Jones franchise was a product of the 80s. They made Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in the aughts. We're getting another one in 2023. He's going to be 80 years old, almost 81 when it finally comes out. Do we need that? Maybe the movie's going to be great. I hope it's great.
Let me challenge you on that just for a second, though, because when you mentioned why not make new IP, I don't know that those two things are mutually exclusive, right? Like, you mentioned the James Bond situation,
sure,
right? Like, we've had some not so great, but also some great James Bond films in the last 15, 20 years. So they have continued to make James Bond films while making new IP, like Bourne and things like that, right? So you can do both. Like, you can make more Indiana Jones films in the future and make other swashbuckling adventure kind of films at the same time. But then would they be doomed to be compared to Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones? I mean, that's another question too. Chris, you hear about this. What's your takeaway?
I mean, first of all, how noble to turn down a role that no one has given you.
That we know of.
What a mensch that we know of. What a guy. That's honestly, though, the big takeaway for me is like, okay, well, I mean, if you were in negotiations, cool. But I don't know if you are in negotiations, so I'm kind of whatever on this, to be completely honest.
Like the way you turned down Galadriel for the new Lord of the Rings film.
I thought that was really
very big of you a couple of years ago.
So.
I'm just too big of a fan.
In deference to Kate.
I'm too close to the material. I don't look enough like Kate. My British accent is trash. Like, I kind of understand Harrison Ford's thing here of it being his role.
When I die, he dies.
Yeah. But like you were saying, though, I mean, the studios, if they have the rights to it, they're going to reboot it. They're going to keep doing this stuff. So I can understand actors making that decision for themselves and saying, hey, you know what? No, that's an actor that I respect. That's a character I admire. That's not for me. But again, once there actually is a big talk and actual casting calls happening, that's when I'll be more interested in to hear who's turning down what.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Actors like Chris Pratt saying, hey, I wouldn't play Indiana Jones because Harrison Ford said he doesn't want anybody else playing Indiana Jones. I mean, do you respect that? Do you think he should do it anyway, or another actor should do it anyway? Should Lucasfilm and Disney make more Indiana Jones films in the future if they so choose? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. Hey guys, we want to take a second and thank the sponsor of this video, BetterHelp. You know, in the age of social media, you might think that everybody's life except yours is perfect because everybody always posts the best memories, the most glamorous shots. But you and I both know that's not how life is. We get pitched some serious curveballs, and sometimes it seems like a lot of them. And you know, we always encourage each other to get out there and to get into better physical health, going to the gym and eating right. But it's about time we started paying more attention to our mental health as well. And that's where our friends at BetterHelp come in. Because see, BetterHelp is not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It is professional therapy done securely online, available to people worldwide. You can log onto your account anytime and send private messages to your therapist, or you can schedule weekly or phone-only sessions if you're one of those people that's not really comfortable being on camera. And getting therapy every week is as easy as just a few clicks on your laptop or phone. It is time to invest in your own mental health, and BetterHelp is a great way to invest in yourself. And right now, they have a special offer for all of the John Campea Show listeners to get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Campea. That's 10% off your first month of online therapy at betterhelp.com/Campea.